Hi, welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman, and I love to share everything quilting and sewing related on my channel. I love quilting, but I am a seamstress also. If you know me, you've known many years ago, that is what I focused on, was sewing garments, sewing wedding ensembles. I loved all of that. And then in the 80s, I found quilting, and I have been hooked on quilting ever since. And I have many videos out there on my YouTube channel that shares that with you. I also do have some quilted jacket videos on my YouTube channel, and more coming up later this summer. So check that out. There's some playlists that I'll share with you below, or just go out to my homepage on my YouTube channel, and you'll find lots of different playlists of a variety of different subjects. But today, what I want to share with you is some estate sale haul of fabric that I found. So my husband and I really enjoy going to estate sales and garage sales. It's just a fun time. We can take some of somebody else's trash and turn it into treasures. And that's what I want to share with you today, where you can take fabrics that do come from estate sales or garage sales, or those bags of fabric that you might receive from friends or from your guild, and sometimes you're just not really sure what to do with it. I want to share with you all kinds of ideas today on how you can use that fabric so it doesn't go into the landfill. There are ways to use it where you're not actually putting it into a nice quilt, but there's so many other ways to use it. So let me show you. So the first thing I wanted to share with you here is this haul of fabric and other things. There is Flat Florence there. She's checking out what I brought home from the estate sale. This container here has just a variety of gallon-sized bags filled with fabrics. Most of these fabrics are actually quilting store cotton quality. And so most of those I will be able to use in quilts. I also got some of this foam, fused foam backing, or it's a batting actually, and it's fused. And this is wonderful to use for bags and purses and so forth. And it's a wonderful product, and I got it, I think, for $1, and there's quite a bit there. I also got a roll of the Heat and Bond, and I think this one is light. Yes, this is Heat and Bond light. Now, I will test this. It's very important when you get things like that at estate sales or garage sales. You want to test it and make sure it's still usable. Sometimes they could be quite old and they aren't going to fuse properly. So I'll test that out. But I got quite a haul here for very little. I think each of these little bags was around 75 cents to $1. And I think these two, I think she gave me both of these items for $1. So that was quite a haul. So I'm going to take this up to the table and share it with you here in just a minute. Now here's a couple of bags, and they're just filled with all kinds of fabric. It's a huge bag. And here's a second one. Huge bag filled with fabrics. I can feel on the top one already some of these are more of the Joanne type quality fabrics, but down inside there and in here, there are definitely some nice quilt shop quality fabrics. So I'm going to pull those up on the table and go through that and show you what I've got. I got each of these bags for $5, and there's a ton of fabric in it, and you'll see that in a minute. Now, before I bring everything up and start showing you how I separate it, categorize it, and identify how I'm going to use it, there's a very important point that I want to make, and that is, if you are just starting out in quilting, or if your budget just doesn't allow for you to be able to go to quilt shops and purchase fabric from quilt shops for your quilts, that is perfectly fine. When I started quilting, I was buying my fabric at Walmart, at Joann's, and many of those quilts are still around, and they've lasted, they're durable, they're beautiful, and I love them. So don't think that just because you've purchased fabrics at Joann's or Walmart or places like that, that is just fine. Those are fabrics that you can absolutely continue to use. But you will learn as you go and progress in your quilting journey, when you are using fabrics that are made they're quilting cotton fabrics from quilt shops. They're just made more durable and they will last more. But that isn't always the case. I will point out, I did a quilt in the last year using some very expensive, very nice fabrics. They felt wonderful when I was working with them and as I made the quilt. The problem with it was that they shredded the ends of the pieces just constantly shredded off. So it's a hit and miss, I guess. But please don't be discouraged if you're not able to afford quilting cottons from a quilt shop. Please do not let that discourage you from making quilts. Have fun with it. This is supposed to be a fun hobby and you can enjoy it. Do not allow that to prevent you from enjoying your quilting hobby. And I think that you'll find once I start emptying my bags here of everything that I got at the estate sale, and you can also find this sort of thing at garage sales, you can obtain some beautiful quality fabrics by going to estate sales and garage sales and picking up things that you might need there. So definitely check out estate sales, definitely check out garage sales, even thrift shops. Oftentimes when people pass on, our children, our grandchildren, they may not understand what we have in our stash and they'll take it all to the thrift shop. So don't forget to check there as well. You can find some real treasures there. So let's see what treasures that I found at the estate sale. We'll start with these 4 bags here. Now this one is mostly small chunks of fabrics of various sizes and pieces. This is going to be a fabulous crumb quilt container. And there are some 2.5-inch strips in here, which I might pull out for some jelly roll rugs. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But there's just a variety of different fabrics. Not all of these fabrics are quality cottons. A few of those were. This is definitely not. I can see through it. I can feel that it is a very thin fabric, but it will work well for a jelly roll rug and for other maybe art quilts, etc. So the first thing that I like to do is separate the fabrics into what I plan to use them for. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull out the fabrics, take a look at them, and I'm going to separate them into categories. There will be a pile of fabrics that I will absolutely be able to use for quilts because it's quilting cotton, quilt shop cotton quality, and I'll be able to use that for quilts. There will be fabrics that I can use for applique or for art quilts. That doesn't have to be that really nice quality. And because an art quilt or an applique can be either fused or it can, an art quilt is not actually washed. Typically, that's something you hang on the wall and it isn't washed. It would be aired out. And then applique type piecing would be something that you're fusing to an interfacing, and therefore it's going to be durable, even if the fabric itself is not really high quality. So those are some things to consider. Also, I will use some of the lesser quality fabrics in decor, and I'm going to show you some of the decor items that I'm talking about. All right, I'm going to separate some of this, and I want to share with you what's all in here. Now, here is a beautiful batik that is obviously going to be put in I keep my batiks in a separate drawers. So all of my batiks are going to go in there. That's where that fabric will go. Here is a nice pink cotton fabric, and this feels lovely. It has a nice durable feel to it, so I can use that for quilting cotton. I'll put that in my pinks container. I do have my yardage, my fat quarters and yardage put into blue cubes, which I have stored in bookshelves all across my quilt studio, and I have them stored by color. So this will go in the blue cube. Here are some green fabrics, and it's amazing how a lot of these I received a couple of yards, 1 or 2 yards. This is just a small piece, but wonderful how I got so much. Here's another batik, and here is a wild blue, and here are some little lights, but this is kind of an assortment here, but lots of fabric here. I bet there is at least 2.5 yards here. That will go into my darks container. These will go into my greens. This one will go into my blue. I might use this for making a bag or some kind of an accessory. The same with this, possibly art bag or accessory. If I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it, I'll hold it off to the side. But right now, all of these are going to go into bins. And now let's take a look at what else. We have these that were left in the bottom of that gallon bag. And these are some nice lights. And if you've studied or used my Speedy Solutions to cut and organize your scrap stash, then you'll know that I cut up all of my scraps into lights, mediums, and darks in squares, strips, and templates. And that's what I use to create all my patterns. So these are fabrics. They're small little remnants that I am going to put in the remnant spot, and they're going to get pressed and then cut into squares or strips or templates. So that goes over here with those. Before I continue with that, I just want to share with those of you who are new to my channel, this is my Speedy Solutions Techniques book. It teaches you everything you need to know to get your scrap stash cut, sorted, organized, stored, and ready to use to make beautiful quilts. There are 5 scrappy patterns in here and an additional 12 scrappy patterns in this book. And they're all where you're pulling lights, mediums, and darks from your stash to be able to make some beautiful quilts. And there will be a video that corresponds to this techniques book. I'll have that linked in the description box, or you can simply go out to my YouTube home channel and you'll find it featured underneath the picture there. So go ahead and check that out. That will really help you as you're getting your scrap stash organized. I've pulled all of these lights out, and what I will simply do is go through and kind of identify, number 1, the quality, and number 2, the size. This is just a little remnant, and I'm always needing lights in my Speedy Solution scrap stash. So that is going to go over here to be cut into squares and or strips. Here's another one. It's not quite, it's about half of a fat quarter. And I think what I'll do with this one is cut it up into squares and strips because I always need that in my stash, my Speedy Solutions. These are a bunch of lights that are at least a half a yard or more that I might just go ahead and fold up and put in my lights bin. I've got cubes, as I mentioned earlier. This is another remnant. This one will get cut up. These are big enough that I'll probably keep them in my cubes. This one I'll cut up. So this is what I do. I simply go through and identify how large it is, how much there is of the fabric, and determine whether or not it's a nice quality. And all of this fabric that I'm going through here is a nice quality. So I will absolutely use these in quilts, and I'm going to put all of this in my light bin. And here's another remnant. So this will all go into my lights. This is for crumb quilting. This is going to be cut into squares, strips, and templates. Here is a dark gallon bag, which has a number of different cottons in there that I can absolutely use for quilting. This is a nice check here that I can use. Lots of wonderful fabrics. This will go into my darks. This can go into my grays. So we'll put that there. Now I've opened up the greens, and one of the things that I found on top is a batik, which is a beautiful green. I love making landscape quilts, as you probably know from some of my videos and on my gallery of quilts. So this is something that I will absolutely keep for landscape quilting. And this is a batik, so it will go in that area of my batiks. I've got some here that are greens, and these can be used in jelly roll rugs. They are strips. And here's some more. Some of this stuff is small enough that I will simply cut it up into Speedy Solutions. There's another batik, a batik. There's just another batik. This is just so fun. I've got another batik. So many great fabrics here, and this is all greens. They'll go on the green. This is a dark one, but all of this will go in the greens. And I'm excited to see the fabrics that I'm finding in these bags. By the way, I do keep these empty gallon bags because I can use them as I'm taking part of my quilting on trips, etc. I've got something to put it in, or if I need to separate and organize things, I do keep those. So there's a spot in my studio for that. Now I'm going through this lavender baggie here, and look what I found. So this is a UFO. And she was simply cutting out circles and sewing them together. She was finishing them. So this circle, she would put something right sides, sew it, leave us an opening so she could turn it and press it. And then she put two of them together, sewed them together, and then she appliqued them down. And she was making a fun little, probably a table runner with all of this purple. That's a wonderful idea. So that's something maybe I can work on later. Here is some fabrics that I think would make some nice little bags, some little sewing bags, makeup bags, etc. We're always needing gifts for Christmas, for family, friends, for guild members, etc. And some of these fabrics can be used for that. And I love to find zippers at estate sales too and use zippers to create that. So this is going to go over in that one. Here's a fun piece or a couple of chunks of strawberries. This again would make a fun accessory of some sort, maybe a small bag, maybe something for a child, just some adorable pieces that can be used in that fashion. Real quickly, I wanted to share with you, I'm pulling out this Heat and Bond. It feels like it's fairly new. So I will cut off a little piece. I will test it on some fabric and see how it adheres. If it's in good shape yet, then I will absolutely keep that. And I have a basket where I place all of these over in the corner. Here is a piece of fabric that I got. This is a Pellon fusible batting here, and it works beautifully for bags and purses and totes, etc. There is a light amount of adhesive here, so you can press it onto the fabric. And that gives some of those fabrics that might not be as good a quality as others some stability. So that's something to keep in mind. So I have that, probably have a couple of yards of that. All right, so I'm going to start emptying this. I've got some wonderful fabrics in here, some plain fabrics, definitely some nice quality, lots of different shades. I'm feeling the fabric, see what it's like, and I'll probably separate it then and put it into the appropriate colored fabric bin. Here's some greens, lights, peaches, kind of pinks there. We have some golds here. This is good crumb quilting pieces. Here's some gold. Here's some plain fabric. There's going to be a lot of this focus fabric. It's seasonal, and these are kind of fun to use for making accessories, bags, totes, etc. And florals. I mean, it just keeps going on. Lots of Christmas things. There's a panel that I got in there. I got some patterns here. This was in there. I have a tote panel. This is a nice sort of a duck cloth, if you will, a thicker fabric. Very nice. That was in there. And then, of course, more of the Christmas holiday seasons. It just keeps going on. More holiday, some fun ones, some light fabrics. Wow, this is fun, just unpacking and seeing what is all in here. More Christmas. Oh, here is a nice kind of a rayon. This is good for lining. You could line bags with this. It makes it nice and slick, so things come in and out of the bag without sticking. Here's another rayon piece of fabric. And what do we all have here? Looks like there's a bunch of fat quarters here. All different kinds of fat quarters. Some food, look at that. Here is a really nice primitive type fabric. This one is it's very stiff. This is a VIP fabric, probably came from Joann's, I would guess. And you can feel that there is some sizing on it and that it will probably bleed into other things. So this is a fabric that I would pre-wash. I do like to pre-wash dark, deep colors if I feel that sizing, reds, blues, greens, purples, etc. I will pre-wash those with a delicate fabric. I like to use Tide Clear. If there's a different type of laundry detergent that you like to use, please put that in the comments. Here's another panel, beautiful pansies here. Beautiful. Here is another panel. just amazing. We could cut all of these up. There's a variety of different squares identifying different flowers. Here's another one. She really liked panels. And here is another fabric. I can tell that this has been pre-washed. Some of this does need to be refolded, pressed, and then reorganized. So that's what I would do with all this. I would identify if I'm going to use it for quilting, or if I would use this in applique or crumb quilting, or maybe in art quilts, or if I want to give it to someone who I know would use it for another purpose. All right, I've simply opened everything in that bag and sorted and separated it. These are seasonal fabrics, or kind of focus fabrics that you're using for seasonal items, Christmas, Halloween, March, and Valentine's. So I do have sections in my cubes where I have this separated out, so I know where that can be placed. These are the pinks and the burgundies. I can put those in my cubes. These are all of those panels, on the tote panel and the various panels. I'm not much on these particular fabrics, so I might take this to my guild and see if anyone is interested in keeping those. Here are the golds and oranges, some brown and some beiges, some blues. These were all those basically fat quarters, and I found a piece of duck cloth, and it was in a bag with a receipt. This came from 2023. And so this would be fun for a tote bag, a very durable, maybe a beach bag even, something very durable. So that is something I've got with this. I remember those gallon bags I mentioned to you. This pattern was completely falling apart. So I put it in here. I will take this to my guild and see if anyone is needing to make something like this. So I'll take that to my guild. And here is the primitive fabrics and the green. So I know where I can put all of this. Everything will have a home. Most all of this can be used for either quilts or for bags and fun little accessories, which we'll show you here in a minute. So if any of you saw my flat Florence video where I teach you how to make this, you could certainly make up a bunch of these fun little flat Florence. They're little flat dolls, and I've put a little clip on the back of mine, and she can just travel with me. It's just a lot of fun having something like that available to you, and they're fun for children, for grandchildren, and for your quilting buddies. So definitely make one for each of your quilting buddies, and you can absolutely use any of these fabrics to make something like that. Now, in the next bag that I'm starting to unpack, I'm finding quite a bit of things. There's some squares that have already been cut up. There's some patriotic fabric, and I'm going to show you a couple of items here that I've made using this. We've got some more rayon fabric, which I am not going to keep, but I will get that to either my quilt guild, or we do have in town here a thrift shop that's specifically for crafters. And so quilters, sewers, knitters, any kind of craft that you might have, you can take things like this to them for others who might be able to use them. So that's something that I've got a container here where I'm placing a lot of that. Here we have some more scraps. I will definitely add this to my Speedy Solutions stash and get this cut up into squares and strips and templates. Here's some beautiful fabric that is a nice light. I'm always needing light fabrics. Here's another big bunch of some really nice light fabric. Here's some peach, and it just goes on and on. Oh, look at this. What do we have here? Oh, look at this. So apparently she had been doing some embroidery of some strawberries. And so this is what she was working on here, and apparently was never able to get that finished. I might take this UFO to my quilt guild and see if somebody wants to finish that. These colors are not my colors, but there might be somebody there who would enjoy that. And then there's simply just more and more fabric. It's all kind of wrinkled. We'll definitely have to address that. There's a lot of Christmas seasonal fabric here. And I would guess that most of this comes from Joann Fabrics. And so the quality may not be that great, but there's so much you can do with this Christmas fabric. I see jelly roll rugs, hot pads, table centerpieces. There's so many things you could do with this Christmas fabric. And then it just keeps going down. I see some sunflower fabric. Oh, and this is a heavy-duty fabric as well, so that might be fun. Here's some packers, how fun, we've got some packers. I'm sure she put together a quilt for a grandchild. And here's some more colors. We've got fall, lavenders. Here is another fabric that has a lot of squares in it. It's a quilted look to the fabric. This is not something that I would use, but it could be made into a backing, or I might share it with some friends at the Guild. We'll check and see on that. Here is some more sunflower fabric. Ooh, this is nice quality fabric, really beautiful. And there's quite a bit of that, so it could become a backing. And what is this? This is garment fabric. It is a knit, a beautiful burgundy double knit, very pretty. And so I could make a dress from that. So that is what was in the bags and the gallon bags. So again, I took everything out of that bag and I folded it and organized it and identified how I might want to use it. A lot of this I can use in quilts, actual quilts. There are some pieces here like this, I'm not sure of the quality of these squares. They're 4-inch squares. I was excited because I thought I'll just put these right in my Speedy Solutions box and use them in quilts. But they're very, very thin. So I might use these for some sort of maybe I'll put it together in a 9-patch or whatever and then fuse it to that Pellon batting so that there's some stability to it. And then I can use it in a bag or a tote. So that's one way I could use that. And then I've got just a number of things here. This is Christmas, all Christmas. And I believe what I'm going to do is make a jelly roll rug. Have any of you made jelly roll rugs? If you'd like to see how this is done, please comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to do a video on how to make a jelly roll rug from beginning to end if you're interested in that. And this will make some beautiful Christmas jelly roll rugs. So we'll work on that soon. Next, I want to show you some of the things, some of the ideas on how I'm going to use some of this fabric, which won't go into quilts. Now, how can you use some of the fabrics? For any of the fabrics that I've shared with you, you could certainly make any of these accessories, a flat Florence, a scissors holder, a bag in which you can place your sewing items. I like to take this bag with me when I'm doing some binding or hand stitching when I'm traveling. Here is a really fun simplicity pattern, which shares with you all different sorts of accessories that you can make for your sewing machine. And those are really fun. Any of those fabrics you could certainly use just to use around your home. Here are some specialty bag patterns that I have. I'm anxious to get them made. I haven't done it yet, but I will. I'm planning on doing that. Here's a carry-all caddy that would be great for taking some of your things to retreats. And of course, all of this fabric is fused to that fusible batting, which gives it stability. And so that's nice. Here's another bag. This is the inside of the bag. It's simply a couple of different pieces of fabric, very simple to make. Put a zipper in there, turn it right side out. And how cute is that? Very, very simple. And I can certainly show you how to make some of these bags. If you're interested, leave a note in the comments, but a very, very simple bag for taking with you on the road. Let's talk art quilts and what you can do with some of those fabrics, even the fabrics that may not be of very good quality. They can be used in art quilts. I will never wash these quilts. If I need to clean them, I might take them outside and fluff them in the air and just dust them, but they will not be washed. They would be destroyed if they were washed. These are Nana quilts that I share with you here real quick. This is Zelda the zebra. And it started as a painting from my granddaughter, and I simply made a pattern of it. I traced it and made a pattern, chose fabrics from my stash, and created this adorable quilt. And it has actually won ribbons at different shows. And I used yarn and just really had fun with this quilt. So this is Zelda the zebra. Isn't she fun? And here we have another art quilt. And this started from a photo. I don't know if I have it on the back. Nope, I do not. I call it I Love You. And this was a photo that my granddaughter sent to us when she was 5. The heart was a funny shape. This is how she colored her words, I love you, like that. And so I simply made a pattern from her exact drawing and used scraps to make what I call a Nana quilt. So this is something that I'll always treasure. And I can certainly teach you how to make these. If you're interested in any of these, please let me know. someone had seen, one of my viewers had seen this quilt out on my gallery. And this is also a Nana quilt. And when I went to my granddaughter's grandparents' day a number of years ago, she was, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, something like that. But we went into the art class, and the art instructor gave us each a 3 by 3 inch piece of paper, and we were to draw a picture. This is the picture that Danny drew. And you can kind of see it there. And I asked her if I could have it. And I brought it home and made a pattern of it. And here it is. And again, I just took that drawing to my stash and grabbed pieces of fabrics from which I could make this art quilt. And this is going to be a treasure that I'll always have. It's what I call Nana quilt. And so if you'd like to learn these, I will be doing a video on this. One of my viewers has asked, and then I can also work on these with you. Just let me know in the comments. This is another quilt. This is a confetti quilt, and it is made with itty bitty tiny pieces of fabric. So you take those fabrics and you chop them up really small and separate them into baggies so that there's different colors and different baggies. And then you draw out or sketch out whatever drawing you like on your piece of fabric and start creating the art quilt. Once you have it all laid down, and you definitely want to make sure there's no cats and no breeze around because the confetti will fly everywhere. But once you have it where you want everything, then you take a piece of tulle that's netting and you place that across the top, you pin it all down, and then you squiggle stitch. I don't know that you can really see it very well, but I simply stitched it. I quilted the entire thing so that everything was stitched down and it will not move. Excuse me, I just hit the camera there, I apologize. But that is a confetti quilt. So that's another way that you can use that fabric that might not be of a very good quality, but it still doesn't have to go to the landfill. It can be used somehow. And then, of course, applique. When you're using a fusible applique technique, those pieces of fabric are being fused to an interfacing of some sort of a fusible web, which is glue for the back of the applique piece, plus it's the glue that will adhere it to the fabric itself. So that makes it very durable, and you can certainly use those lesser quality fabrics for applique if you choose. And then here is another. This is one of my fun little peekaboo bunny patterns. You'll find this out on my website. But you can make all sorts of seasonal table runners and centerpieces, etc., for any season. And this one that I grabbed just happens to be for the spring. And there's Easter eggs here and the bunny. Remember these fabrics that I shared with you. The quality of these is not really that good. However, there's so much you can do with this. As you can see here, I've made some little flags. I've ripped, and I wanted to have more of a raw edge on the edges of the fabric, so I ripped the flag out of the fabric, glued it to a skewer here. You could go outside and grab a stick. I put a little bit of jute at the top there, and I've placed it in this maple syrup jar. And on the maple syrup jar, I've cleaned it very well. I've got two flags in there, but I've cleaned it very well. Then I used a pinking shears and cut out another one of those flag red, white, and blue backgrounds in a circle, and used Mod Podge to apply it to the jar. I also cut out a blue star from this blue fabric here. I can Mod Podge that on there, and then I added some jute again as a bow, and then I've tied around the top here jute, and then tied it in a bow. And just a fun little decor piece. There's so many different decor pieces that I'm going to be creating. If you'd like to see those, please let me know in the comments. There are seasonal ones, not just patriotic, but for every holiday. So let me know. I'd love to share those with you if you're interested in seeing them. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed being able to share with you all of the fabrics that I got at the estate sales. And I've already put most of them away. I have one little bag that has a few items in it that will either go to the thrift shop, that crafting thrift shop, or I'll share them with my quilt guild. Some of the ladies do enjoy those panels. So I have homes for everything. And thanks again for stopping by my channel. If you're interested in seeing how I make any of these items as well, please don't forget to comment. If you like the content that I share, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you again next week. Happy quilting.